Well, Canadian Space Mining Corporation made one small step with its rebrand to Canadian Strategic Missions Corporation. It happened last month, but it's a giant leap developing mission-critical technologies. Here to talk about the future of Canadian space and the company's contribution to that, and on the ground as well, as the founder of Canadian Strategic Missions Corporation, Daniel Sachs. Daniel, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an
All
honor
right,
to be here.
let's talk a little bit about the name change. Why change that from space?
Well, we're
still going there, right?
Yeah, we started with humble beginnings with plans to process resources on the moon to support humanity's exploration efforts there. But as we did that, we started to expand our focus, and that led us to a number of dual-use technologies in healthcare, energy, resources. And the core focus of the company really shifted from being a space mining company towards one that was developing dual-use critical strategic technologies.
And so what are some of the technologies now that you've been developing?
Yeah, I think our core focus is really harmonized around our nuclear reactor, which we call Lunar. And that is a micro-reactor transportable within a shipping container for powering Canada's defense needs in the Arctic or for putting a reactor on the moon.
Now, people have heard about modular. There's been a lot of talk about modular reactors for AI data centers. Is that a modular reactor or is it different?
I mean, the term modular reactor is used to encompass both reactors that are modular and not modular. Yeah. We are trying to build very small reactors, so-called micro-reactors or nanoscale micro-reactors that are about this large, that could be transported within a shipping container. The Arctic, in particular, Canada's need to build defense infrastructure in the Arctic all right now relies on diesel energy. That is a logistical nightmare for the military. It is killing the planet and people's health in the Arctic. And so it is a resource and mass limited market. You are limited in the Arctic only by what you can bring there through the logistics networks. A lot of the defense spending is targeting areas that have no road access, have no boat access. And so the only way to get these reactors or power sources in is off of a C-17. And so we are designing a reactor to fit within the payload of a C-17.
Now, are there not concerns? I mean, there's concerns obviously about the damage to the environment with the diesel, but are nuclear as concerning? I mean, if there's a plane crash, or how long do they last when you get them up there, and then what do you do with them when you're done?
Yeah, so we're working through all those issues. They're obviously complex issues as it relates to nuclear, but nuclear is a fundamentally a safe technology. Less people have died in nuclear accidents than have died in construction of wind turbines or typical construction that goes on a daily basis. It's a very safe industry, although there is a lot of scaremongering that occurs. We're planning on a 5 to 10 year life for the reactors, so they would be shipped into place, power for 5 or 10 years, powered down and cooled down over a period, and then returned to factory for refueling and refurbishment, and then sent back out into the field.
And there's some pretty good, but the challenge is working with the cold up there. They do get heat in the summer, but the cold is a challenge. But that kind of sets you up for anything you're looking at in space too, because you said earlier that you wanted to get one of these onto the moon, essentially.
Yeah, we've been working for several years on that. We've received some financial support from the Canadian Space Agency in that area, and we've been leading Canada's effort to put a nuclear reactor on the moon. When you look at it, Canada has one of the leading nuclear industries on the planet. We are what's called a Tier 1 nation in nuclear. We are also a leading nation in space capabilities, space robotics. And when you marry those two things well, they give us a strategic capability that very few countries can compete in. And so we've been working to advance the reactor for the lunar surface and to deploy it in order to support the Artemis missions, as well as the commercial activity that's going to begin in the next couple of years there.
And how has funding been for you? I mean, you're getting some from the government. Are you getting interest from the private sector as well?
Yeah, we've been able to raise a little bit of money from the private sector, and then we've been very good at winning contracts with the government as well as getting support. So we've won a total of about 17 various contracts with the government over the last 3 years. I think we're probably one of the fastest growing companies in this area within space and defense. And then, a number of contracts with the CSA. We most recently won a contract with D&D for the nuclear reactor. So we have the only defense contract in the Canadian nuclear sector. And so we're building a prototype reactor for D&D, an unfueled version of it, to demonstrate to them this summer. And then we in December, won a contract with NATO as part of the NATO Diana Accelerator. So we'll be building to NATO standards.
And would that include the U.S., or is the U.S. a separate market with the defense down there? Have you had any luck down there?
I think the U.S. is a separate market. We continue to be engaged in conversations there, but obviously it's a precarious situation right now for Canada and Canadian companies to manage. We see a great opportunity right now with what we're doing in the Canadian Arctic. We are a very patriotic company. We are very focused on delivering capabilities for Canada that are unmatched globally, and doing so as quickly as possible in order to secure Canada's northern security.
And you went from real estate to this. What was that like, making that transition? And what was the reaction from people when you were trying to raise funds and trying to get people interested in this?
Yeah, I think it was one of dismay and impossibility. Beginning of the pandemic, like many, I had an existential crisis. I'd worked on about $4.5 billion of real estate deals in my career, anywhere from working for the former president of Brookfield, Bill Pringle, to working for Hudson's Bay for Richard Baker, and then a number of jobs in between. Beginning of the pandemic, I had my version of the existential crisis. I realized I wasn't sure what impact that those deals had on the world. Investors had made money, and that was great, but was I squandering the time of my life? And so that led me to starting a space company. I guess as a business person, I wasn't that technically grounded.
And the concept of sales is the same no matter where you go, right?
Entirely. And so set out to build a space company in the space mining area, and then, of course, have navigated those opportunities throughout the way. Look, I think there were a lot of investors and people within, quite frankly, the space sector who said it's impossible, and we've built one of the fastest growing space companies in Canada. So I think I'm pretty happy with the way our team's been able to succeed in these areas, and now we're doing that within defense as well, and nuclear.
All right, have to wrap it up there. One space joke. I know you like telling them still. You got one space joke?
Not a good one.
Not a good one. Okay, we'll leave it at that, Daniel. Thank you very much for joining us. Daniel Sachs is founder of the Canadian Strategic Missions Corporation.